They're coming to get you, Barbara.
All right, so welcome to another great, amazing, wonderful episode of Schreck Talk. A lot of things have changed since we did our last one. This is actually the last one we're going to be doing in the house. I was living with Mr. Joshua, and Sarah Plain and Tall for a while. I just moved into my own house, so this will be the last episode that we record in this facility because the recording equipment is mine. And our next recording should be happening at the new house, and that would probably be coming up here shortly anyway. But we're going to do something a little bit different since this is the last episode in this house here. I've come up with 20 questions for Mr. Joshua. These are just weird, different nerd questions that we just sit around and talk about sometimes when we're drinking, different kinds of things like this. I thought you guys might like to know the answers. So do you have anything to say about your 20 questions, Mr. Joshua?
These were kind of fun to answer. Some of them were a little better than others to answer. Some I had a little harder time picking things out. Some of my answers really surprised me. I was very shocked at what I wrote because of they kind of just hit me when I was trying to answer them. So I look forward to explaining each answer as we go through them.
All right, well, without further ado, let's begin. So question number 1. You have a time machine that only goes into the past. What time period would you go and why?
This question I've actually had the answer to for quite a while. It makes a good first question because I've known the answer to this for a while. And that would be probably about 1965, roughly, would be the year I would choose. Someone say, wow, that's really close and things. Oh, that's part of the reason. There's multiple reasons why I chose this one. The first answer is it's so recent history, I have the future knowledge of what's coming up. I can make smart decisions so that, oh, look, this up and coming company Apple, maybe I should buy some stocks in that. Things like that, where I know how things are going to pan out. I know when the really big events are going to occur, what's good, what's going to happen, so I can avoid some of the pitfalls that are going to come and make my life a little more comfortable in respect financially. Another reason would be the music. That's, as we've talked about before, the start of the great era of music. You get to see all these bands playing, starting their stride, hitting their stride. You can be in London and see the Beatles play their last concert on the rooftop because you know what's going to happen, things like that. And then there's the simple comforts of living in the modern times. You do still get air conditioning, automobiles. You can still travel around the world a lot. Whereas if you go back a little, even just, another 50 years or so, a lot of those things were different. A lot of things were much farther from what we consider life now. And then...
Are you thinking like this is a permanent thing? Like you're going to be living in the past? Because when I wrote the question, I just thought of it as you're just going back to visit. Like it's a timecation.
Oh, no, I totally viewed it as this is where I'm moving to. This is my time machine. It goes back. It's a one-way trip to 1 year. That's the way I viewed the question. And that's the way I answered the question.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll stick with that. And finally, for the little weird aspect of it, it'd be kind of cool to meet your parents as real people and not them knowing you as their child, but be able to meet them and just say, like, casually brush into them and, without it affecting your life or anything, just being an acquaintance that meets them once or twice. That would be kind of cool, too.
Alrighty, so question number 2. What's one concert that you wish you would have witnessed? It has to be a real concert. Can't be one that's just made up or anything like that. You've got, big festivals and stuff like that. Which one would you choose?
Now, this one has a lot of options. As you said, there's big festivals. There's, lots of tours that I've seen from my life.
Memorable shows, like you just mentioned, the Beatles on the rooftop show.
Yeah, shows I've been to that were extremely memorable that I would love to experience again. I would be okay with that, too. But the one I chose is, in my opinion, the greatest concert I've ever seen. And that would be the Last Waltz concert. That would be the last performance of the band. And I think it was 1978, I believe.
That sounds about right.
And it had so many guest people: Joni Mitchell, Neil Diamond, Neil Young. You had Ringo Starr was there. Just so many people playing. And the show was great. It was documented. It was recorded for a documentary concert film with Martin Scorsese directing. And I had never even heard of the band. I had heard a couple of their songs. I didn't know who they were, though, when I saw it the first time. And I was just blown away. And to imagine being at that show, seeing all these great artists on the stage, seeing this great band who, kind of was never as big as some of the other names, but had been around for a long time, has a lot of memorable hits. To see them have this last final hurrah and this great show with all these people that are their friends celebrating their history, I think that would be amazing.
All right, so question number 3.
Before we move on, have you watched you've seen The Last Waltz?
I've seen The Last Waltz, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a pretty cool concert.
Yeah, even if you're not familiar with the band,
Yeah.
and it's obviously not your favorite or anything, but
it's one of them epic concerts
it's
you wish
a
you
great
could
show
see.
you wish you could see, and that's why I chose it.
Yeah. So, okay, number 3. You were taking a trip to Mars. What 3 books would you bring with you? Now, this is a return trip. You're going to be coming, or you're going there to do something, and then you're coming back. You're not living there, like you're going.
Now,
back in
yeah,
time.
but the trip to out
the
there.
trip, you need something to keep.
How
you
long is that? A
occupied.
couple years? 2 years?
No, it only takes about 6 months.
There and back is only 6 months.
No, to get there is about 6 months.
Yeah, so I got about a year in
Yeah.
this small little space. Okay, then I still chose right. First and foremost would be my favorite book, Wizard's First Rule. Terry Goodkind. It's not a great book. It's got lots of problems. I've read it probably like 15 times. I just love it. I would have to have that with me first and foremost. Second would be for functionality, I would pick a dictionary. It's the book that's going to most keep your mind activated. There's so much you can do in that book, and that book is never going to get old. You can constantly look at that book for reference, for learning. There's always something new you can learn from that book. Even in that year, there's no way you can read through that book and completely grasp everything in it. You can spend your whole time with that one book alone, probably, and it would be a great book. You'd come back with a much larger vocabulary.
Yeah, you'd be talking to people, and they wouldn't have any idea what you were saying.
Yeah, because you would know these, and like I've always been told, your larger your vocabulary is, the smarter you are, because the more concepts you can understand, basically, the more things you understand.
It's what separates us from the animals.
Exactly, words, communication.
Yeah.
And finally, I would pick a book because you're in a situation like that. I would pick the Bible. I think something, I don't personally have faith, but the idea of something I'm always very open to, and I would love. Maybe this would be a situation where I could have it, and it's just a great written book. There's a lot of good stories in there, it's got its flaws like any book, besides the dictionary. But I would definitely pick those 3. There's no room for error in those 3. Those are the 3 books I'd pick.
Alrighty. So that's quite interesting, by the way. I didn't think you were going to go that route. I thought you were going to pick The Stand because it was so big and so long.
But my choices make sense?
Yes,
I
they
think.
do. All right, so number 4. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Okay, well, I chose 2 because one of them's a pretty awesome, powerful superpower, and that might be overthink, and it kind of relates to the one, and that's time travel. Obviously, if you had the option to just travel like
So
Hero,
you're time traveling back to question number 1 for this.
yeah.
Okay.
If you're Hiro Nakamura from Heroes, you can travel back in time. That's a pretty great power. Obviously, I think it ended up killing him or almost killing him.
Yeah.
Something like that. But
that was the 4th season of Heroes that nobody cares about.
I stopped watching by that
Yeah.
point. So besides that one, because that one's kind of, again, I already answered a question about time travel. So to pick another answer, I chose perfect recall memory, like where I could recall everything I've ever seen perfectly. I could recall everything I've ever heard, learned. That would be amazing. Your whole life is at your disposal, and I believe my life is really a collection of these memories that I have. I believe it's almost like when you relive a memory in a way. Even though they say you're remembering the last time you remembered the memory, whatever, I feel like I'm there sometimes. It almost feels like I'm in the moment again. So to have the ability to perfectly recall the moments and the things I've learned and all these things would just be awesome. So I kind of cheated and chose 2 there, but it would be one of those 2.
All right, 4 questions in, and you're shocking me with all these answers here, buddy. But we're going to go over number 5. If you could live in any fictional universe, what would it be and why?
Well, obviously is the why, and it's going to be Star Trek. We're big.
That is the perfect universe.
We're
anyway.
the big Trek fans. There's so many options you could choose as you lived in this. You could be a human, or because you didn't specify what universe. I could be a Romulan. I could be a Klingon. I could be a founder. I could be any of these number of beings in this world where there's so many possibilities. It's such a vast universe. It was hard to choose this because there is a lot of other ones that I think you might see in other questions that I was really interested in too. Because some of these questions kind of have some similar things. They're all related to things that matter to me and are interesting to me. So obviously Star Trek. Don't need to say anymore.
All right, number 6. If you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Now this is one that surprised me. I chose Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Interesting.
I was very surprised. He's just such a wonderful. The guy was so smart. The more I read about him and the things that happened in his life and the way he handled them and the way he inspired people, there's a lot of people that have done that throughout history. You got people like Gandhi, you got these Mother Teresa, you got these people that have really been kind of selfless people that are living for a cause greater than themselves. But he's the one that I don't know. Just recently, I've been reading a lot about him, seeing a lot, and it was hard. There's a lot of people I love, but I think he would be one of the. I didn't want to pick somebody who I just like, because I like them for whatever reason, an actor or historical figure or whatever. I wanted to pick someone that I think would actually be really interesting to talk to, and to hear how they think about life in general, and that's why I chose him.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't want to talk to him. I would want to talk to him because he's an interesting guy, and he's probably got a lot of great ideas and a lot of great things that just never. His potential was never reached because his life was cut too short.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine if we had somebody that we really haven't had anybody like that for a long time that united so many people.
Yeah, All right, so that was number 6. We're going to go to number 7 now. If you had unlimited resources and a month of free time, how would you spend your ultimate vacation?
This one kind of surprised me as well. I would spend it on a space station. I would go take a trip up to the space station. If I had unlimited resources, as we said, infinite money, I could find a way to get up there, make sure I'm physically fit, or all those things that they have to push through. But just being up in the space station, seeing the Earth, having, 12 sunrises and sunsets in a 24-hour period, seeing it's so hard. Most people don't realize how big and how little the Earth is at the same time. It's all scale depending upon. The Earth to us is huge, but when you see it from outer space, you realize how small it is and how fragile it is that we all live on this one little thing that's existing in space all by itself, kind of. And I just think it would be awesome to go out there and see it. I've always loved space. And we've always been big nerds of astronomy.
Yeah, and if I could do that, I would obviously go up there.
Yeah,
and do that.
It's one of those things. But when I thought about it again, it surprised me that would be. I can't think of anything else I'd want to do. Yeah, there's concerts, there's places I want to see, there's things I want to do. But that's Earth. That's seeing Earth. So few people get to do such things. Zero gravity, all those things.
Yeah, lots of puking.
Yeah, I have motion issues.
Yeah.
So I'd be
real good up there. All right, number 8. Let's assume, going back to Star Trek, let's assume that holodecks are real. What's the first program you would try?
Okay, well, it would obviously be my second program. So we'll just skip to my second program, which is going to be because we can't talk about my first program. The second program would be
yeah, we do have a PG rating.
That's
PG-13.
Right. We try and keep it PG. It's a light PG-13. I would probably go Spaceballs. Because I know the story so familiar. Like, I can quote the movie. I know everything.
Would you play Lone Star?
I would play Dark Helmet.
You'd play Dark Helmet. There you go.
That would be it for me. Like, there's no one else I'd want to be. It would be great. I know all the lines. I just have a blast enjoying it. There's so many things you could do with it. You could make up your own stories. You could live historical stories. But that movie, I know everything about it, so I could play it perfectly like I'm that character, and the rest of the movie is still going. Like, nothing about the movie is different except I'm in it. And I'm that character. Everybody else still reacts the same to me, and I would nail it perfect. I'm a horrible actor, but I could pull off Dark Helmet.
See, and I think that I wouldn't want to cut Moranis out of it. He's the golden goose of that movie. I would want to be a spaceball on the bridge. In this situation, anyway, a spaceball on the bridge watching Rick Moranis' Dark Helmet.
No, but you don't get that. That defeats the purpose of the holodeck of interacting with your story.
Well, you're still interacting.
Yeah, but it's in such a minor way. You have to at least be like Barf for someone,
Oh, Barf's weak.
You have to be somebody who's getting in on the fun.
I guess you could.
Yeah,
I wouldn't choose Spaceballs, but
yeah, I'm just saying if you're picking something like that, you got to pick somebody who's going to be in on the fun.
Yeah.
So it was a weird choice.
Maybe President Scrooge.
But that's why I picked it because I picked it because it was
Colonel Sanders.
I'm so familiar with. And I could go along with it, and then I could, have other stories, because movies aren't really good at adaptations of stories. You'd have to do historical events or fictional events from, that you create, or a story or something where there's more open interpretation. A movie hasn't really adapt. That's why I chose it, because I know that movie so well. I don't have to worry about adapting it.
Alrighty, number 9. What's your dream job?
I would want to be a film critic. I watch movies so much. That's what I do. I love it. I know a few people who love movies as much as me. I do know a couple people, unfortunately, who know more about movies than me, and that bothers me. I'm working at it. But I would love to just watch movies and learn about classic movies more, about all different types of film, more foreign film. There's so much out there. Obviously, you could never catch anything, but that would be a great job just talking about something I love so much and so passionately. And you could still live it. You could basically work from home.
All right, number 10. You are stranded on a deserted island. What 3 things would you take with you? Now, there's a little thing here. Nothing that can help you get off the island. Only things that make your stay better. So you can't take anything with you that, like a cell phone or something like that can help you get off the island. It has to be something that would just make your stay better there on the island.
Okay. So the first answer I have for this, I don't know if you're going to take it, but it should be the obvious answer. Another person.
No, I'm taking that. That would make your stay better.
Okay. Then another
any particular person you have in mind, Sarah Plain and Tall?
Yeah, probably that would probably be it. Obviously, she's the one obviously I know I get along with. But well, good. And then I can scratch off the one I had instead of if that one didn't take, because I was like, well, obviously that would be the first thing you'd want to take is another person, because otherwise it's gonna be rough, lonely. We all saw Castaway.
Yeah, we all saw Castaway.
We don't need.
He wasn't alone. He had Wilson.
That's right. So there you go. First and foremost, another person. That would be the first thing. Secondly, a home or a mobile home or something like that. Shelter. Something that would provide me good shelter. That for me.
That would be really hard to take that.
Obviously, that's why I said a mobile home. But
maybe a tent.
No, not a tent. If I'm slumming for a tent, then no.
Okay.
So, but some kind of shelter. That would obviously be for me. I like how you took the one I didn't think would go, and then the other one you're like, no.
What are you going to carry it on your back? You're going to strap it and swim it into the shore?
It could have been on the boat that crashed that I was on.
Yeah, it would have sunk.
No, it's fine. It was on its side. I turned it over.
Okay.
I used some pulleys and stuff like that, and I turned it back straight up and cleaned it out. So, mobile home. Number 3, a knife. Something to defend myself with, that's going to be reliable.
To me, that is the obvious answer, a knife.
Yeah, that's the first one on my page.
Yeah.
I went from in the back order. Another person to me is more important than the knife. Another person, we can work together, find other ways, and I'd rather die happy with company than live a long life lonely and insane. So for me, another person would be more important than a knife. But a knife, obviously, that's why it's on my list. That was the first one I wrote down. It's something that's going to help you survive and help you go. Obviously, there's some other choices, like things that can help you, like a magnifying glass or something would help you make fire easily, so things like that, or any other number of other rope, so many things that could help you. But, protection, shelter, companionship. So that's it for me.
All right, so we're halfway through now. We're going to go with number 11. If you could watch only one movie for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Well, I think this answer should be obvious from my number 8 question, which is Spaceballs. I've watched that movie all the way through at least 100 times, and I've seen at the beginning of it a lot more, falling asleep to it. I still laugh at it almost every time I watch it. I chuckle. There's moments that no question.
Is that your favorite movie of all time?
I don't think it's like the most amazing movie, but yeah, it's my most favorite movie. Just because of the watchability. I've seen it so many times I can still laugh. How many things can you say that about that you've watched? You've consumed that much of it and it still feels fresh and good to you.
I just threw in Terminator last night. I've seen that hundreds of times.
I did see that, yeah. So I'm saying there's not a whole lot, but there are films that stand out. And since that's your favorite movie, I think that makes sense. It makes sense for me.
Yeah. Alrighty, so number 12. If you could play any instrument in any band, what would it be and what band would you choose? I stole this question from that metal show on VH1 Classic.
Way to steal this question. This was a hard and an easy one because there's so many bands you love. There's so many things you could do. I had to pick the most important man, and replace him. That would be Mr. Tony Iommi on guitar. Black Sabbath, so I'd play guitar in Black Sabbath. The first metal band. Metal's such a part of my life. I love it. I love a lot of other music too, but metal is where it's at, and Sabbath is the epitome of metal. Iommi is the father.
You'd be okay dealing with Ozzy's crap?
Oh, that's all right. I'll get rid of him eventually and pick up a couple other guys that'll do fine. That'll do okay for me.
All right, so number 13. If you could play any sport professionally, what would it be and why? I'm already pretty sure I know what the answer to this one is.
It should be easy and obvious. It's curling. Curling is one you don't. I love hockey, but I don't feel the need to getting hit and getting in fights aren't really my thing. I'm not the most aggressive guy, except when I'm driving. And so for me, curling is much more relaxed sport. I love being on the ice, though. It's fun. I love the slow nature of the game, the methodical pace where you got your time, but you have to think about it. I love the fact that you can drink while you play the game. It's like bowling. Is it really a sport? Well, yeah. I mean, it requires. I mean, I've been out there. I've tried. I've been learned how you do it, and it is physically demanding. You have to support yourself. It takes a lot of leg strength, and then the skill of throwing the rock, obviously. But that's just like bowling. The skill is the other, but. And the class class of the sport. Everyone's classy. They're all real friendly towards each other. It's a friendly game.
You're not going to make much money playing curling professional.
Oh, that's all right. I don't care. You can make a decent amount of money. I mean, if you're in Canada, yeah, you're going to make good money. You make enough that's your career.
Yeah, but do you want to live in Canada? Really?
I actually don't.
Sure, you betcha.
I was thinking about it. I love the ice. I love curling and I love hockey. They love curling and they love hockey. It is practically the 51st state, so...
I understand what you're talking about, but yeah,
so
let's
there
go on to the next one here. All right, number 14. What character from a movie, TV show, book, or other fictional account would you like to be?
That would be Daniel Olivois, Daniel Olivois, or whatever his name is, from the Robot series and Foundation series in the by Isaac Asimov. He's a human form robot. He's created in like 21, 25, so he's like 25 something or another. But then he ends up living in, a good like 100,000 years, 50,000.
It's about 25,000.
25,000 years. And we still don't know what happens to him. He merges with another life form, and becomes even more than just a robot in more ways. Like, great character, very noble, basically created, designed the human empire, the galactic empire, on his own, he's the man. The lifespan is great, the nobility is great of the character, the whole story. He's wonderful.
I thought you would have picked Richard Rahl from the Sword of Truth series.
Yeah, that would have been pretty good too. But I mean, Daniel,
he's got to deal with all that crap.
He's got all this bad crap keeps happening.
Yeah, you don't want to.
All Daniel's doing is trying to solve murders and save the human race.
All right. So question number 15. Here you go. Take this. You just won the lottery jackpot.
Yay.
What's the first thing you do with the money?
The first thing I would do is buy a restaurant.
What?
Yeah, the first thing I would do is buy a restaurant, and all my friends and family would eat there for free. Any of them who needed a job.
What kind of restaurant? What does it specialize in?
I had probably Chinese food.
I would never go there.
That's my favorite kind of food. I don't know, like. It'd be a hodgepodge of different kinds of food, It'd be like Applebee's, but
it's American.
It'd be Applebee's, but with a little some Asian cuisine in it, more Asian cuisine. And there'd be a bar and stuff like that, and there'd actually be a couple of back rooms where people could stay. It would be a place. So basically, like, I like having, how it is. We like having our guests. We like having being good hosts. I love hosting people. I love making them feel comfortable. It's kind of weird. I actually really get a kick out of it, like trying to be a good host, make people have a good time. That's why I'm always like, what do you guys want to do? What should we do? So for me, that would be a great option because it'd be an opportunity to see my friends and family more. It'd be an opportunity to help out some friends and family if they needed work or something like that. And it'd be kind of cool owning my own business, All
right, number 16. Besides pepperoni and cheese, what do you want on your tombstone?
And some sausage? No, I don't know. Here lies dust. That's the best I had nothing. Like, I don't really care.
You didn't like this question.
I didn't really like this question because when I die, I just don't care. I'm gone. The second I pass, it don't matter what happens to my physical body. Like, it's not there anymore. So you can chop it up, make Soylent Green. Whatever. Like, it don't matter to me.
People.
I don't care. Like, whatever means the most to the people burying me who actually care. They can put whatever they want that makes them feel that inspires them, that makes them feel better. I mean, I don't imagine too many people, so whoever's left at that point, Hopefully I've touched one person in my life who will still be alive when I die, and they can decide what they want on there.
All right. So number 17, movie guy. Here's a movie question for you. If someone made a movie of your life, who do you hope would play you?
Okay, so I have two answers to this question. I have my dream character,
Who do you hope would play you?
Who do I hope would play me, and who do I realistically think is a good choice? Like, if you're going to cast someone to play me, this person's going to actually nail the essence of me. So I hope both of them would. But one's a little more fanciful thinking, and one's more down to earth. So the more fanciful person I'd love would be Cary Grant. He's just the ultimate of cool and class. I'm obviously not that, but that's who I would love to play me because he's just the man and he's so suave. But in reality, somebody who would be very appropriate to play me would be someone I think like Chris Pratt, and like fat Chris Pratt, not
Chris Pratt,
not buff Chris Pratt, not
from
sexy
Parks and Rec.
Yeah, not Guardians Chris Pratt.
Okay. All right. So number 18. Okay, we both got these huge nerd collections, all kinds of crap that we've collected over the years. If you could save only one thing from your nerd collection and everything else has to get thrown into a fire, what would it be and why?
My photos with me and the people that I obsess about. My Alice photo, my photo with me and Karen. Just my photo with me and Megadeth, you and Megadeth, like those things. I had a hard time thinking about this because I'm like, well, there's so many things, but like, what's not replaceable? What is something that even if it isn't replaceable, I don't want to lose? And I thought about it, and I was like, well, those pictures, those people are. I mean, I live for Alice. I live for Megadeth. I live for Karen. I love those things so much.
You're forgetting Sylvester McCoy.
That one's not as high on my list.
He's my boy.
I do like that one, and I would still grab it, obviously, because I consider it part of what I'm grabbing. But the other three are the ones that really matter to me. Those three are my huge nerd things. I have some other photos that I don't have printed out. Like I do have a photo of me and Zach Wilde from 2003 that I have a little 5x7. I've been looking for the negative so I can go and make an 8x10 so I can get it printed out, and frame it and put it with the rest of them. But I got to find the negative. So, I mean, once I find that one would be as important to me as well. Because that was definitely, I remember that was the first real big one, And then there's some that I took that like on my phone or something. Like I have one with me and Christina Scabia from Lacuna Coil, which I really like. But those ones, obviously, I don't have printouts. They're not as important. I wish I did, but maybe sometime soon.
All right, so we're getting close to the end here. We've only got 2 questions left. The last one might take a while to go, though. Number 19. If you're going to be executed, but you got to choose whichever way you wanted to go, what way would you choose to die?
Death by snoo snoo. If you're not familiar with that, go watch some Futurama, and you'll learn how it's the way I want to go. Death by snoo snoo.
Death by snoo snoo. Okay, that question went quick because I don't know what snoo snoo is.
I'll explain it to you later.
Okay. Number 20, is it, again, a PG-13 issue?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Surprisingly, it's on Futurama. Last question. Plot and cast your perfect movie from any actors or actresses living or dead, old or young. You get to pick like young Harrison Ford teams up with old Sylvester Stallone in a space boxing match. I don't know.
I had a really hard time with this one because there's just so much you could do. And again, I had to think about this question on, well, this is me writing this. And if I'm, there's a quote in, it's one of the first lines in the second movie in the Before series, it's Before Sunset, where he's talking about his book that he's written. And he's written this book about his life, about this time he met, basically the first movie. And they ask him this question about, what's your next book about? And he's like, I don't know. People say they write what you know. And he's like, I've never really had any political intrigue in my life or anything. He's like, but I wrote, this thing about, I could write about, what it was like to meet someone and really have this moment with them. And so when I thought about writing a movie, creating a movie, I thought, well, when you write a story, when you create a story, it's sort of it will be sort of autobiographical in a way. So I thought, well, why not just make it an autobiographical film? Something from my life that if I wanted, I would want to see on film. And the moment I chose was the meeting of the first girl I ever had any interaction with, I ever kissed. I would say the first girl I ever fell in love with. And it was this girl named Ashley. And it was a great week. And there was a little period before meeting. I'm sure you remember it. and it was really affected my life. You know?
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, and it was a really big deal in my life, and I still, to this day, like, to me, it was so special. It was this event. It was something like in Before Sunrise, where you meet someone and they just have an impact on your life. And, that's one of the joys of youth, is that you get to have that. So thinking that, I thought, well, I would love to see this story on screen. Now, who would I want to act in it? Well, this is hard, because I love lots of actresses. I love lots of actors. And there's no one that I really felt would be perfect casting. I mean, yeah, I already said who would be me in my movie of my life. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're the perfect cast for this movie that I have, and this vision, the interaction. So I thought about it, and I couldn't put some of the people I wanted to put. Like, I could not find a role for Karen Gillan in my movie. I just couldn't. I couldn't think of anywhere to put her. And there's only a couple of parts in my movie.
She could be Ashley's sister.
There's only a couple parts in my movie. I guess. I mean, I didn't cast all the super minor roles. I just cast the main players.
Okay.
So.
Okay. First off, this is the important one. Tell me who plays me.
So you wanted to know who plays you.
Yes.
Now, this is hard because. Okay, well, first let me start with Father, because there's only 4 characters in the film that I cast: you, me, Father, and Ashley. So we'll get to you in just a second. Our father is a very similar figure to us. He has a very similar personality type. So I thought, who would be good to play Dad? Who would be good to play him in this movie? And I thought to myself, well, there's a lot of actors Dad really likes. And I figured the one I wanted that I would choose for Dad would be Mr. Charlton Heston.
That's a good pick.
I'm a big
old Charlton Heston because
old
he's the
Charlton
dad.
Heston, yes, because he's playing Dad. But I love Charlton Heston and Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments. Even some of his bit parts when he was older, like in True Lies and stuff like that. And so the Green, the man has a great career. So I went with Charlton Heston for that, because I think that's one of his favorite actors, if I recall.
It's one of his favorite actors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's his favorite or not, but okay. So then I thought, okay, who could play my brother? And this was hard because you don't want to pick someone who embodies any one characteristic that someone might find offensive.
What? What are you doing here?
I'm setting it up here.
Alrighty, jeez.
So I thought, who is somebody who's a really versatile actor? Because he's got a lot.
I am very versatile. I can play myself.
No. This person could play the finer points, the softer points of your personality, which there was some there when it was you weren't trying to be that older brother making it super awkward for me. But then there was other times where you were trying to make me uncomfortable and make my life more difficult and things. During
I don't remember that at all.
Oh, of course.
I remember I was always there to support you.
Of course you don't remember this at all. So I thought, who are some of the greatest actors there are out there? And I had to think, well, the casting on this movie obviously isn't going to be age appropriate because, we were teenagers. So I don't want it to be exactly like that. I wanted it to be more like late teenagers. So I had to think of an actor who was also good when they were a teen. I know what they were like when they were a younger actor. And there's not a lot of that kind of narrows your choices down. So I went with somebody I thought I really liked, and I think they're a really great actor, and I don't think you're going to like the choice, but I went with Emilio Estevez.
Emilio Estevez.
I love Emilio Estevez. Estevez. So I went with Emilio Estevez for you because I thought I know what he was like when he was younger. I saw him he's in the Breakfast Club. I know how he acted. You're definitely not a pretty boy like Rob Lowe, so I wasn't going to pick him if we're going to pick our 80s actors. But that's who I picked, Emilio Estevez. Now, the 2 important lead roles, me and Ashley. Ashley, I had to pick. There's only one option. There really only was one choice for her because what person is the best actress out there that can represent class, which is how I viewed Ashley. She's a very classy lady.
Hold on, I already know this one.
Oh yeah, I'm shocked. I think anybody who's listened to this knows this.
Maybe.
Let's hear it. Who do you think
Audrey
it is?
Hepburn.
I'm shocked. You know it. You knew my favorite actor. Not that I don't have personalized license plates and posters and things all over my house for her. Cups and mugs and glasses and whatever.
Puzzles
and all that fun stuff. So there's that. That's her. My character, again, who am I going to pick? It had to be somebody that I felt really represented what I was like during the situation, so I couldn't pick your confident Cary Grant. I couldn't pick your kind of goofy, like really smooth Chris Pratt. I couldn't pick those guys. So who did I pick? Somebody who I thought really embodies awkward. And all I can think of is, well, golly gee, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. He was a nice, awkward guy, Jimmy Stewart. He nails that uncomfortable, doesn't know how to handle, doesn't know how to talk to someone, which I really had a hard time. I never had experienced a girl being interested in me, especially one I found so attractive and things like that. So I nailed that. That is definitely who I would choose for my casting on myself as well. The other ones, there was little room. Your Emilio was a tough call. Charlton Heston was a little more tough call. But the two leads, I knew them. That's what it is. Not the greatest choice, but I'm a sucker for romance films. I talked forever, gabbed forever about this. I'm sure nobody cares, but that's my movie. It's personal. It's not going to be a blockbuster anyone's going to really want to see. But hopefully it finds its niche audience, like someone like me who loves those nice, serious romance films and really understands connection between two people and how significant it can be in someone's life.
All right. So, well, there we go. That was 20 questions with Mr. Joshua. Eventually, one of the first ones we're going to do at the new house is going to be 20 questions for Schreck. And Mr. Joshua here is going to come up with some questions for me to answer and give me some time to think about them. We might be doing something special in between those, though, before we do the first one. It'll be a different first one because we've got some issues going on that you'll have to hear about if and when that comes up. But do you have any final words on your your 20 questions?
No, sorry I rambled on that last one so much and wasn't, very succinct on the answer. But you'll hear probably a couple of these questions for yours, but there'll be some different ones too. I would say no more than a quarter of these questions will be repeated on yours. So think in mind some answers. Obviously, I imagine you did when you were writing them.
Of course.
So we'll have fun, and hopefully this was a pretty fun experiment. I rather enjoyed it. So hopefully you have as good a time with it as I did.
Yeah, it was fun. So we'll see you guys later.
Go away or I shall taunt you a second time.